Welcome to The Explainer. So, you know that feeling when you walk away from a conversation just completely frustrated because you realize the other person entirely missed who you are? They took one tiny little thing you said or did, and boom, they've put you in a box. It's a really deeply frustrating emotional reality, isn't it? Just feeling completely misread by the people around us.
And it brings up a huge question. Why do we work so hard to make sure nobody gets us wrong? Honestly, it causes a lot of emotional pain to feel like you've been flattened into someone else's lazy conclusion. You have this whole rich life of thought, feeling, context, and complexity, and suddenly you're reduced to just someone's assumption. Maybe they label you the difficult one, or the backup friend, or the accommodating one. And the kicker is, when you step outside that role, they call it a betrayal. It just hurts.
A recent Substack essay perfectly captured this incredibly exhausting habit we all seem to fall into: over-explaining. I mean, we constantly replay conversations in our heads, right? Endlessly wondering where we went wrong. We rewrite text messages 10 times before hitting send, sometimes drafting an entire novel of caveats just to say, hey, no worries. We're constantly offering these anxious little footnotes to our personality, trying to become clearer, just making absolutely sure no one could possibly get us wrong. But trying to endlessly litigate your own humanity, well, that's just an exhausting, anxiety-inducing way to live. Let's dive right into Section 1, the pain of being misunderstood. See, we usually think being misunderstood is just a failure of communication on our part. We think, oh, if I just used a different tone, or if I sent a slightly longer message, they'd get it. But actually, sometimes it's not about how you expressed yourself at all. It's simply that you've inevitably encountered the limits of another person. It's the difference between the hallway version and the whole house. Most people you meet are really only going to interact with a tiny fragment of you. They're just standing in the hallway of who you are. The problem happens when they mistake that hallway for the whole house. And the absolutely crucial takeaway here is that it is not your job to drag them through every single room to justify your existence. People see us through their own wounds, their own biases and expectations. You literally cannot control their perception. Section 2. Greatness invites inevitable misunderstanding. So, what if being misunderstood isn't just a daily annoyance? What if it's actually a requirement for doing anything truly meaningful? To look at this from a higher, more philosophical perspective, we can turn to Ralph Waldo Emerson's famous 1841 essay, Self-Reliance. He proposed a really bold thesis. He said to be great is to be misunderstood. Emerson wasn't just pointing out a coincidence here. He was arguing for a direct correlation. He believed that genuine originality and independent thought will inevitably clash with conventional wisdom. Basically, by venturing beyond the boundaries of accepted norms, you naturally and unavoidably invite resistance. Emerson actually pointed out that history's greatest, most pure and wise spirits were outsiders precisely because they thought differently. Think about it. Whether you're looking at Pythagoras in mathematics, Socrates in philosophy, Galileo in astronomy, or Newton in physics, in almost every field of innovation, the absolute result of true originality was being misunderstood. It's a great reminder that groundbreaking ideas need time to be appreciated, and the people who champion those ideas, well, they're often alienated by the masses who are just perfectly comfortable with the status quo. Moving on to Section 3, Nietzsche and the Free Spirit. This brings us to another absolute titan of philosophy, Friedrich Nietzsche, and his profound 1886 text, Beyond Good and Evil. Nietzsche took this whole idea of the misunderstood genius and explored exactly why the masses cling to comfortable, simplistic binaries, while profound minds absolutely do not. He actually gave this independent thinker a name, the free spirit. So a free spirit operates way beyond dogmas. They willingly endorse solitude, and they actively challenge the unquestioned beliefs of the herd. Nietzsche argued that departing from the rule and fully embracing your own complex nature isn't a flaw you need to go and correct. It's actually a sign of elevation. The free spirit doesn't need that universal green meadow happiness of the crowd. They accept that their deepest insights might even look like absolute foolishness to people who simply aren't predestined to understand them. Which leads us to Section 4, Why Profound Spirits Need Masks. Nietzsche takes this a step further with just a brilliant insight. He says being misread isn't just an unfortunate side effect of greatness, it's sometimes a deeply necessary shield. He wrote, "Everything that is profound loves the mask." I want you to really let that sink in for a second. True depth actually requires concealment. When you have an inner life that is delicate and complex and costly, you don't just hand it over to the nearest observer. Misinterpretation can actually protect a really complex mind from the clumsy, superficial judgments of the world. The most crucial point is understanding the actual nature of this mask.
It hides profound depth from superficial observation, and it protects your fragile, costly inner truths. And beautifully, as Nietzsche points out, this mask grows almost instinctively. Why? Because everyday people inherently misinterpret your nuanced words and actions anyway. You really don't always have to correct them. Letting them see the mask is often the absolute wisest way to protect your own inner peace. And finally, Section 5, building a sturdy, unapologetic self. So how do we take all this 19th century philosophy and actually apply it to our lives today? We need to step away from this habit of over-explaining by taking 3 really effective steps. Step 1, learn restraint. You have to know when you've explained enough. Step 2, stop adding paragraphs. Seriously, stop handing out access to your inner life, hoping that just one more sentence of transparency will finally earn you understanding. It is humiliating trying to be understood by someone who is fully committed to misunderstanding you. And step 3, retain authorship of your soul. Do not outsource your sense of identity to the nearest observer. Don't let your identity turn into an endless negotiation. Remember this: you are allowed to reserve parts of yourself. Your peace will always be completely unstable if it depends on the accurate interpretation of other people. Always remember, people see you through their own lenses. You cannot control their perception, but you can definitely stop collapsing every time someone sees you wrongly. We have to stop wanting to be understood by people who haven't even understood themselves.
So, I'll leave you with this. Who will you become when you stop letting others edit your soul? Just imagine the immense freedom of finally releasing that heavy burden of over-explaining. Imagine stepping right out of the small roles others have assigned to you, enduring a little misunderstanding, and finally embracing your own untamed greatness. It's a deeply liberating thought to take with you today. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope this empowers you to build a much sturdier self.